very much. There's no one here. So people are not, how come they're not being directed down here? And Africa was here 10 years ago when I was here, in the same basement. Why won't they direct you down here? Because it has to keep the stigma that African people have no civilization. You know, we were just naked running around, had no technology. Keep it in the basement. Hell. It's the same, you know, hell's down. They're playing on something in the mind. So you'll see it. Then you have the buto fish. This is a buto fish. The symbol is worn as what you call the atef that's on Osiris's crown. But it's found in West Africa. It's found on the Pope. It's found as the symbol of Christianity. The fish. Fishes of men. But yet it's found in Tamare. In West Africa. Same people, same culture, same civilization. But we adapted our culture or our spiritual practices or our religion based off of the environment in which we found ourselves. If you lived in the desert, you really wouldn't have a fish as your symbol. Because there's no fish. You follow? If you lived on the ice caps in the mountains of Kilimanjaro, you wouldn't have symbolism of a lion. You might have symbolism of a mountain lion or something that's in your environment that you utilize for food or skin or the fat. If you're an Eskimo, you use a seal as your symbolism. You wouldn't use an elephant because you would never have seen one. So the word elephant wouldn't exist. But so the culture changes based off of environment. Africa or cosmology or Tamarean spirituality was not predicated on making everyone a facsimile of each other. That's not balanced. Nature says each creature or each animal or each species adapts based off of where they are. There's only European and an Arab mentality that says everything must be what I am. Fair enough? All right. Again, you see the same symbolism. The buto fish, same thing. Buto fish. The twins, the concept of yin and yang, Pisces, the twin. African textiles, tapestry. In Kemet, they called it Neith, the mother, divine mother or angel of weavers. Look at the type of weaving you did. Look at, this was done without a machine. And according to their writing, let's read it real quick. Ethiopian altar cloth, so you had altars, was woven in the 1700 from imported Chinese silk. Its makers, now here's the lie, its makers may have been Jewish weavers from Yemen. No. Now let's ask which Jews. Yemen. Say Yemen. Yemen. Say Benjamin. Say Benjamin. Say Benjamin. Dr. Ben said his grandmother was from Yemen. But see, because the word Jew, what are you now thinking? You're thinking Europe. So this is why words are so important. To identify who you are, because as long as we're using the words that they use, you keep going back to them as a reference point. But look at the tapestry, look at the inks that we use. These inks didn't wear out. You can't buy a pair of jeans today and wear it 3 days without it wearing out. So we knew something. Morocco. Now if we look at this shawl, what do you see in this shawl? What do the Jews put on every morning? Called a tefillin. This long blue and white or brown and white prayer cloth. But it's found today when you graduate university, you call it a stole. But it's found in West Africa, of the Manjank cloth from Guinea-Bissau. So the people of Guinea-Bissau were making stoles. So they must have had universities. What's the greatest university of the last century? 2 centuries. Timbuktu. Oh, so somebody knows something. But if we tuck it down in the basement, and we don't put any lights and spotlights pointing people in this direction, no one comes down here. Let's continue. Morocco, North Africa, you again. But according, what does this look like? Doesn't this look like the gypsies?
Yes, it does.
Say gypsy. Say I Egyptian. Say I Egyptos. So where did the gypsies get their dress from? So every time you see a gypsy, or you call them Eastern Bloc, yeah, some of them from the Eastern Bloc, where they get their culture from. The ruins, the casting of lots. But when they do it, it's called ruins. Or casting of lots. When you do it, it's paganism. Isn't that convenient?
Oh,
She said, yeah. printed cotton cloth. Beautiful. This was done in 1800s. It's not new. 1800s, you were weaving and doing these types of designs. East Africa, South Africa, 1800s. When all they were wearing was wigs and with lice in it, right? Truth is truth. It is what it is. This is what you were doing. But yet you're ashamed to wear it, and now they're grabbing it in their fashion industry. African Imports, anyone ever heard of that company? Owned by your people. Importing most of the African dashikis that the African cultured people, conscious groups are wearing. Look at the designs. What skirt does this look like, sis?
It looks like the Native Americans.
Native Americans, beatery. So which culture are the Native Americans? African culture. But it's found in Central Africa. Before and older than the Native American culture. And the Native Americans admit to it. You were doing this. This is Central. Chad, Rwanda, Central Africa. Cloth and clothing in Africa are sometimes used to display power and wealth, though the techniques and materials used to produce prestigious cloth varies greatly. Cotton and synthetic yarns are widely used. These are things you were doing before the cotton gin. Before so-called technology was available, you were already doing it. But in order to justify the kidnapping and subsequent enslavement of you as a people, we had to justify to the world. And matter of fact, yesterday, what's the paper they give you on the train? Metro. The Metro, Evening Standard. There's an article, if you get yesterday's edition, right? There's a whole article on how the British Museum was started in the 1700s, and what the goal of the gentleman who started it was to be able to claim history from Asia, North America, South America, Africa, and bring it here to turn London into the center of information. Because if we remove all of Africa, all of Asia, all of South America, all of melanin cultures, this museum would be one blue. And that's very important for us to recognize. All right? Again, we're in West Africa. Kente cloths. Ghana, Ashanti. The Ashanti people. They call Kente. Yes? You were doing this as well. This is also West Africa. So African civilization is not just Egypt. That is the myth. Egypt is one of our great civilizations. It is not our only great civilization. We have to be very clear of that. That's why we say Tamare, because Tamare includes all of that continent, as well as North America and South America and the Caribbean and the Indus River Valley and certain parts of Southeast Asia. Not us saying it, all scholars who are honest have to admit to such. They don't have to like it, but no more than we like going to the dentist, right? Now we're in Benin. What materials are we using? Materials available to us. Benin, Nigeria, Togo, Yoruba land. They're using bronze because bronze was available. Look at the symbols. The ancestors, warriors, teachers, priestesses, priests, using brass. It'd be nice if they shine it, right? But anyway, feather of Ma'at. So even at the heart, the double feather, the plume feathers on the side of what's called the active crown of Osiris, there's two feathers. Represents law and order. Law and order, the two sides to Ma'at, law and order. Out of the law, order comes. Out of order, the law is established. So even amongst the warrior class, there was order, law and order. It wasn't haphazard.
With these, you got statues whereby there's 3 individuals, 2 individuals, and 1 individual. What's the reasoning behind that? What's the significance behind that?
First of all, if you notice the 2, what's 2? Duality.
Yeah.
What's 3? Trinity. So they had this principle, they understood the Trinity, the concept of divine mother, divine father, divine child. Mother and father. Without mother and father, there is no divine child. So it's not a new thing you converted to. This was your symbolism. They just gave it back to us with Zeus and Poseidon and what's the other character? Hades. Sky god, water god, hell god, or underground god. But look at the very top. You still see Buto fish? Why does this fish keep popping up? Because the female's egg and the male's semen, water, the fish. Clear? This is what they found in the late 1800s. Brass and copper. So who's the real Iron Age? Benin City. And they went and they looted and took your iconography, always overshadowed on the top by fish. The fish symbolism, the twin, the male and female polarities, feminine and masculine. Some with 2, some with 3. Duality, the original trinity. Notice the females wearing the bullhorn, the symbol of the fallopian tubes, the reproductive ability. Hathor's bullhorns, crescent moon, every culture has it. But it's here. Someone doesn't want us to recognize this, but it's here, in the basement. But they told you and I we had no technology. We think great Africa and we think 20,000, 30,000 years ago, when in fact, you're looking at 100, 110, 120 years ago. This is what they found when they got there, and there's more, because the Romans went in from the Vaticans, they stole a certain amount. Mussolini stole a certain amount. Hitler stole a certain amount. The French Napoleon stole a certain amount. The Spaniards stole a certain amount. The Americans stole a certain amount. Everybody's stealing a certain amount of who you are, but if you go to these museums and these libraries and you unearth the truth and put the pieces of your life back together, each person has to do it for yourself. We'll help you as best we can, but you got to want to know more, and you have to want to bring about a change in your life based on your story. And you don't need anyone's interpretation. Interpret your own. They don't ask your permission, so why are you asking theirs? True? True. Don't get over it. These are the crowns. These are the hats. The crowns, different hats, all around Africa. These crowns, these hats that we wore on our heads represented an overstanding of your culture, an education, if you will, that other societies make it seem like you were just wearing because you liked the way it looked. Everything you did identified what land you were from, and all of our cultures had to know what the other cultures wore and what it represented. Your ambassadors. And so we have to come and do studies on these things, all of you, to learn so that when you're wearing it, you're not just wearing it because it looks good, but you're wearing it because you understand the symbolism and what effect it has on you. In the glass cases behind us, you see the rooster, the back one there. Rooster is a symbol of rain in East Africa and West Africa. Most West African villages, you'll find chickens running about and maybe one rooster. Well, you'll see more roosters. They don't, in the Western cultures of Africa, they eat the rooster, not the eggs, not the hen, because the hens have to lay more eggs. So they'll eat rooster. But the rooster is considered the symbol of Re because it brings in the sun. Because the amount of cones that it has in its eyes when the sun comes up, it's like blinding, and that's what makes it. So it becomes a symbol of calling forth the divine. Clear? Jewelry boxes, carved in ebony. Do you know how long this took? A week. You know how good you have to do it that fast? So you had to understand symmetry, yes? And mathematics, yes? And depth. So you knew geometry. You understood math. You weren't pagans. Mat feather. See the mat feather? That's the Sandi society. Mat. We always had law and order. There was no traditional indigenous culture that separated law and order from reality. So we advocated law and order, balancement. Some call it feng shui, yin yang, male, female. Every culture has a name. This center glass, look at ivory. And mind you, you didn't go and kill the elephant to get the ivory. You knew where the elephants went to die. And every year you went to the elephant gravesite and you collected your ivory. So you were balanced with nature, as opposed to the poaching that goes on today. Look at the detail. But yet we were labeled pagan. So why is it okay when I memorize what you've given me as names that have really no relationship directly to me as it's been interpreted, but when I identify with this, then it's pagan. Meanwhile, the Bible does say Jacob stole the family heirlooms of Laban, his father-in-law, called teraphims, the same family funerary statues, which were not worshipped but served as a reminder, just like pictures. You have a photo album? You have pictures on your mantle, on your bureau, your dresser. You have pictures of your ancestors, of your grandmother, grandfather. Are you worshiping them or are you remembering them? This is what these were. And these remembering tools are removed so that you and I would forget. And it's placed here where most of us would never think to come. So let's walk and you're going to see some things. Let's uncover. First of all, you're realizing the artistry, the ability to carve. Now, we use whichever material was available in our environment. Our iconography or our mascots or our symbolisms were based off of those animals or those things which we found in our environment. We did not worship animals. They were our mascots. Every university, every school has a mascot. Correct? Yes. And so does that mean the people of that school are worshiping that mascot? No. So why is it that when you as African or indigenous people have the same concept or precept, you're labeled other than what you are? Pottery, as they call it. So you understood clay, working with clays and working with different types of materials. Carvings, look at the carving, look at the detail. They said this is the Osisa village of Nigeria. How did it get here? Because Europe, under the guise of the Vatican, their concept was, or their teaching was, if you don't like it, destroy it. They practiced a scorched earth policy that said, take what we can, the rest you burn. Most people think that the glory of your civilizations is 10,000 years old, and much of this was found in 1900, 1906, 1870s, a little over 100 years ago. Don't think ancient as in a million years. Yeah, you were back then also, but you had civilizations, you had cultures, you had teachings, and we're going to see that today. Fair enough? Africa, 1900, 1870s to the 1900s. Now this doesn't seem like much because you think, well, it's just pottery, right? Well, wait till we go to the other side.
You go to Victoria and Albert as well.
That's right. Now let's look here. Pottery is one of the oldest arts of Africa. While it is often seen as a disappearing skill, modern production in the workshops and villages throughout the continent is vast and probably increasing. While the technology of African pottery appears extremely simple, local terracotta combines absolute utility with great formal beauty, meaning no one else has been able to replicate it. Nigeria. The video shows the key stages of pottery manufactured in the Gwari village of Ushafa in the central Nigeria. The female potters work all year round. So who was the original potters? Why? Who's the original shaper of us all? In whose womb are we shaped? So our science understood that. The reason they can't figure out how we built things is because they're trying to leave out that feminine force that was responsible. Every person standing here has a positive and masculine energy running through your body that's affecting your brain. The right side runs the left side of the body, the left side of the brain runs the right side of the body. To leave out the feminine or masculine polarity is to leave out a portion of yourself. Only Greece and Rome chooses to do such. We have to embrace our true spirituality, economics, labor, and every other aspect of who and what we are, and don't be ashamed to declare such. It's not about offending any, it's about standing for what you know to be true and necessary for your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical liberation. and anybody who doesn't like it, they'll get over it. Right? We're over it. And his mother and two consorts, one with a child who's infant, one with a child who's in the lap, and they're holding in their hand the reed plant, the papyrus reed. The papyrus reed is known as what they use to make parchment paper, and it is that which represents stability, because information is passed from generation to generation. That fan also resembles the Ankh that we just looked at upstairs, the key of eternal life. We held the Ankh in Central Africa, we held the Akuba in Ghana, in West Africa, and we held the Ankh in what they're calling East Africa. It was overstood as the key of reproduction, or the feminine fallopian tubes, the matriarchal society, because female is that which we all come through to live, and every man must re-enter her to have eternal life, to have children. Good? I thought this was European. I thought this was the Vikings. But this is whose? It's yours. It's the House of People, Nigeria. So where'd they get it from? So the next time you're watching a Viking movie, or Lord of the Rings, or Braveheart, or Gladiator, or the Egyptian wannabe movies, understand where they got their concepts of warfare from. This is Niger, the House of Horsemen of Niger. Scissors. You thought they made scissors, didn't you? Hammers. If you had hammers, what are hammers used for?
Hammer things.
To build things.
Yeah.
So we were building. Scissors are used to do what? To cut. So we were cutting. But I thought you were pagans, waiting to be civilized.
Do you have a date on that?
19th century, which will put it in the 1800s. Not 10,000 years ago. 100 years, a little over 100. Now, according to the write-ups, this is from the Congo Basin. Where's Congo? Anyone? What part? Congo. Central. Congo, Rwanda. Central Africa. You had a system of defense, not warfare. Warfare is to go invade another person's land to take what's not yours. Defense is to defend yourself from that which is trying to take what is yours. Now we're on one side, when we go on the other side, you're going to see another level of development. This was your... Now when you go into the Celtic areas, you're going to find a similar design in their weaponry, which they call the Bronze Age. But you were the original bronze workers of Benin, of Togo, and you'll see the bronze mass. And the mineral bronze, was it abundant in Europe? So how could they be the Bronze Age? I'm just saying. Brass behind you again. Now they say this was used in magic, ritual, and religion. The Lile people, Ugun, Yoruba god of iron, so Nigerian. This was what they found. This is what they found when they invaded your land. You were doing this, and then were taught to disconnect and embrace perceptions as they've given it to us. Not that you didn't have originally Christian or Hebrew doctrines, but the way they've given it to us, it's done something. We're using this tour as a remembering tool. Everyone in here, including myself, either are or have suffered from a form of amnesia. Each of you are going to see something in here today that's going to trigger something in you to want to know more. That's what we want. If we get you to want to know more, you liberate yourself. Not about me doing it, about you doing it. You have to free yourself. You free yourself by deciding you want to know more, and you'll never accept anything on face value. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Let's go down to the other side. All right. Come on. Sorry. Everybody just stand in here and face this way, please. That way I can... Is everybody? Come on in here, stand in. Group photo. Now, notice everybody's standing around this glass case.
This is very hidden, isn't it?
But you see that glass case?
Oh, yeah.
They say that's the Rosetta Stone. About how many 100 years old? 300-400 years old. Not the oldest. But they're all standing around it because it's supposed to have the Greek, the Aramaic, and the hieroglyphs, and explain how you're supposed to interpret African culture, or what they're saying Egypt is African culture. But reality, they're all standing around it. Let's go look at it. Then we're going to walk that way and see something that's 10,500 years old, and notice how this is being kept and how that's being kept and how no one's looking at it. Everybody's looking at this because this is Greek on it, and so this is when they dove into it. They have a display going on here called Egypt, Faith After the Pharaohs. So most of what they call Egyptology is after the Pharaoh. When who came in? Who's on the picture? Greeks and Romans. Greek and Roman. So let's go take a look. This is a sarcophagus, yes? That's what they call it. That's the Latin word, sarcophagus. English, we call it what? Coffin. Yes? It's from the word coffer, where all the money is kept. But what did we call it? A neb-unk. Say neb-unk. And the neb-unk, nebu, remember upstairs? That obelisk we looked at, nebu. Nebu means master, mistress, not mistress like cheating on me, but a female master. What the word really means. What's the unk? Key of eternal life, but it's the original cross. So every great pharaoh or queen, if you will, was placed on a neb-unk. She's placed on a, okay, I'm gonna say it again. Neb-unk, also called a cross. Neb-unk, also called a cross. So every great ruler, when they expired, was placed on a cross. The concept of a human being who sacrificed their life for you, your good shepherd, your sacrificial mother or sacrificial father, is placed on a cross, a neb-unk. They took it and nailed this guy up there and said, Jesus. She's on a neb-unk. She's on a cross right in front of you. But if I play with the language, I don't see it. If I say sarcophagus, I don't see it. But this is called a neb-unk. So she became a mistress of the sacred schools. And in the church, they take this part of it and they bring it as a halo and put it on his head. Christ wears a halo on his head. Or some churches put a cross and then they put the circle in the middle of the cross. Now, what symbol, if I take that circle and put it at the top of the cross, whose symbol is that? What's the symbol for female? Centrifugal. A circle.
Yeah.
So who's the original sacrificial shepherd? Who lays the life that we may live? Mother, you, divine mistress, divine you. Any female with children shed blood so that we may live. The original sacrificial shepherd. Because what makes, in the Bible, they'll say an unblemished lamb, right? A lamb that's supposed to be a virgin, unblemished. But only females have a hymen that can be broken. No male that I know of, right? Never know, right? But no male has a hymen. So when they say the unblemished lamb, it has to be the female. Make sense? Go that way, because there's no way this way. And this is also your Ark of the Covenant, by the way. Because in there, kept the tools, kept the books, kept the every one of these you're going to see in this section, they say they would carry they had these little rings on the side on all four corners, and they run a stick through it and they carry it. That's the symbol of them carrying the Ark of the Covenant. Because in here was not just a person, but was also books, records, information. The Ark that kept your covenant, your story. Or did they put it on a cart and pull it? Which one? We were smarter than that. It was like,
It's just the one that you just spread up already.
this is your pillar of faith. Because it tells the story of your belief system, of your cosmology, of your spirituality. Always based off of the divine feminine and the divine masculine who sits in her lap. It's always a boy. You'll never see an Egyptian or African pharaoh, female queen or princess seated with a girl in her lap, because she understood the necessity of both polarities. And that child was raised and understood or overstood that without mother, he's nothing. King Shaka of the Zulu did not win one military campaign. He was called General Shaka. Somebody, if you're the general, somebody's over you. Nandi was the one instructing him how to win. Queen Nzinga was the one instructing them. The warrior princesses of Dahomey, the country called Dahomey today, they were called the Amazons of Dahomey. British did not handle these women. They mopped up every soldier the British sent them to where they had to ease back. They said we never encountered. That's where the story of the Amazon women come from. The warrior princesses of Dahomey. You follow? Queen Yasantiwa, who went and got the Ashanti stool. The men were like, I don't know. She's like, women, let's go. We're going to go get it back. And they went and got it back. Respect. Okay? Again, you see inscriptions around us. They're saying this is the side. Semtek kneels making offerings to fearsome looking deities. What do you mean fearsome? Because you don't know what it means as fearsome. Has anybody seen this symbolism in Yoruba land? It's the same crown that we saw downstairs. The Yoruba wears a similar crown with one Uraeus. The Uraeus means the sleeping serpent, the Kundalini. Because what serpent, they say fire breathing, and in Europe they were always afraid of the fire breathing dragon. What dragon breathes fire? The spitting cobra. A serpent is a dragon that opens its wings and spits fire into the eyes of its enemy. So all about cosmology, all about understood that the mind, when the mind is raised to its full potential, you become a fire-breathing dragon. Your Bible says, wise as, harmless as, and every ancient African queen and ruler, male ruler, had a serpent and a falcon or a vulture or a hawk or an eagle. Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. That's African iconography. That's not European. So Jesus must have been raised around you. Or must have been one of you. Take your pick. Right? Yes, ma'am. That's the helix. Because we did not separate. So you'll find on our iconography, as they call it, you'll find mathematics, architecture, cosmology, spirituality, religion, economics, trade, weaving. We had 99 angelic hosts, and each one of them represented or signified aspects of who we were. And they taught us to separate it all. What we're trying to do, atonism, is to reclaim each of these pieces to where they displaced them and put them all together. This helix symbol is the two snakes climbing the spine, the medical symbol. Ambulance, doctors, nurses, some have one snake, some have, where is he? I was just pointing to him. His mask, where? Yeah, there we go. One snake. So that means he reached one level. Associates, bachelors. Those who had the two, masters, PhD. Universities, cities where you study the universe. To study the universe doesn't imply just studying constellations. It implies studying everything within the visible and invisible universe. And when you uncovered or gained knowledge of these things, you named them after those working on it. You understand it. Einsteinium, Tesla, a unit of measurement, named after a European. Einsteinium, the last element on the periodic table today, named after a European. But when you said Atum Re and Nun and Nunet and named them after your ancestral mothers and fathers, all of a sudden they don't get it. Let's continue.
Dig this.
Yo, okay, yo, I like you. You're like a tiger.